So today's word comes from 1 Peter 4:1, which reads, "Therefore, since Christ suffered in his body, arm yourself with the same attitude, because he or she who suffers in the body is done with sin." I'll read it again. "Therefore, since Christ suffered in his body, arm yourself with the same attitude, because she who has suffered in their body is done with sin." So as always, we'll unpack this and talk about how it relates to wellness. So first question I always ask, anytime a new chapter starts with therefore, I ask, what's the therefore? So the therefore pertains to the chapter before it, which talks about Jesus on the cross. And it says, "Christ died for sins once and for all, the righteousness for the unrighteous, to bring you to God. He was put to death in his body, but made alive in the spirit." So the therefore is therefore. It says, so since Christ did this, therefore, since Christ went through that, and he suffered, meaning he had pain, injury, he endured in his body, arm yourself with the same attitude. So suffering in this world is inevitable. Some people do not get that. Our culture specifically tries to avoid it. And if we can switch our mindset, if we can have the mind of Christ, which is what we're called to do as believers, we are called to live in the heavenly realm. We are called to live outside of this world. This is a perfect example of a passage of we live outside of the norms of this world. We operate in a completely different understanding of how things work in a fallen world. So since Christ suffered, since he endured for you, since he had pain for you, since he was injured for you, so you could have access to God, a once and for all one-time sacrifice for you to have access to God, we therefore have to take on that same attitude that we're going to suffer. And there's no way around it. We're in a fallen world. We were born into sin. This life is tough. I'm sure all of you have been through devastating things. And if you haven't, oh my word, you're probably a little bit sheltered, or maybe you're in denial. But that is what this world is. So arm yourself. That literally means you have to put on armor. Arm yourself. Ephesians 6. You have to physically put it on. This is not a mindset that you just wake up with one day. This is not something that you just have. This is very unnatural. This is what I teach my clients to go through. Arm yourself with you're going to endure a process of changing your lifestyle. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be very difficult. It's a long road. It's not for everybody. You have to physically put on armor every single day and go to battle for this mindset, for this attitude. So basically what we're saying is, okay, so Christ suffered, therefore I have to understand that things are going to come my way. I'm eventually going to suffer. I'm going to go through seasons of suffering, and I'll go through seasons of joy and happiness. You know, everything's cyclical in this world. So attitude means I have to settle my way of thinking and feeling. And with that attitude, there is a reflection of my behavior with this new attitude. This right here is how we reach people. This passage is how we put people on the road toward the gospel, and we shed light on who Jesus is. Because if you go through a tragedy, and it's just a matter of time, I lovingly speak that to you, it's just a matter of time where you're going to be rocked with something coming your way, or maybe you already have and you're like, by the grace of God, I'm still upright, because you armed yourself. So when you go through a tragedy, a loss of a child, maybe a divorce, maybe you lost your job, maybe you were in a car accident, something horrific happened to you. And your mindset, you're in a place where you're going to overcome that. Not only are you going to overcome that, you're okay. Like there's a peace about you. There's a tranquility about you. People cannot put their finger on that. They don't understand it. This is how we are called to live outside the world, because typically we see when people tragedy strikes, they're just like, oh, I can't even believe it. No, da, 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 da. And I understand that. I've been rocked too with certain situations, and I was kicked down and beaten and bruised and stabbed by the enemy himself. But you know what? I picked myself back up because I have resurrection power through a God who died on a cross for me, and I have access to that power. And I believe that. Even though I don't feel that way, I believe it. So therefore, I was able to pick myself back up. And that is the same power each of you have in this room. That's resurrection power. That's living outside the world. That's what we're called to do. That's how we present the gospel to people. That is a perfect situation where people are going to look at you and be like, how is she doing it? How is she okay? But it's not you. It's Christ in you, giving you something that you cannot do on your own. It's a miracle, is what it is. And people can experience a miracle through you. That's what we're called to do as disciples. So because we've accepted this attitude, because we are trying, because we are changing our mindset and we're practicing and we're disciplining ourselves and we're enduring, and it's not a feeling, we know it's an action. Because we have taken on this attitude, when we suffer, we are done with sin. We are done with sin. Do you have any idea how life-giving that is? Do you have any idea how powerful that statement is? You can literally break free from something, anything in this world, no matter how horrible it is, no matter how life-threatening a disease may be, you can break free from it if you understand that you are called to suffer. I mean, Christ spoke it to us. It's truth. It's what's that verse where he said that I came, take heart. Life is going to be tough, but take heart. I've overcome the world. Things are going to be really hard. I'm warning you now. But you're going to have a supernatural peace if you hang on to me, and people aren't going to understand it. You are done with sin, and sin means separation from God. It means sin is like, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to describe sin. If there was a book on sin and you doing bad, that means sin is maybe the first chapter in a whole book of what sin is. And that's not even really, that's just a flecker of what it is. And it's very unfortunate that people don't understand sin. It has taken on this completely different context of what it's supposed to be, especially in our culture. Sin simply means that you're doing things that separate yourself from God. You're separating yourself from a source of wellness. You're separating yourself from the ultimate source of love. And you're separating yourself from something that's going to set you free from bondage, set you free from something you've been struggling with your whole life. It means we've missed the mark. It means that we were born into sin because there was free will. We made a choice to pursue desires. So therefore, we have to endure that. But Jesus came to save us from that as well. So when we are saying we are done with sin, these are some of the things that you can be done with if you take on a mindset of suffering. You are done with being lost, confused, and hopeless. You are done with lack of peace and understanding. You are done with addiction, abuse, neglect, and hurting yourself. You are done with making excuses. You are done with setbacks, and you are done with what ifs. You are done with hiding in shame, fear, and guilt. You are done with toxic people. You are done with manipulation. You are done with gossip. I mean, you can walk away from any of this at any point in time. Gossip is one thing that I struggle with because I think as women we like to kind of talk about other women, and we're like, oh, we'll pray for them, but really we want to hear more of what's going on in their life, and we're kind of like, there's kind of an ulterior motive as to why we want to know more about somebody. I need to be done with that, and I can be done with that. I'm called to lift women up. I'm called to build them up. I'm called to partner with them. I am not called to gossip about them in Jesus' name. I can be set free from that. Today, I can be set free from that. I can never do it again. I could completely walk away from it. I have that resurrection power, and so do you. I am done. You can be done with generational sin or quote-unquote genetics because your parents had it, you automatically have it. Oh, that is a lie straight from the pit of hell. That is a lie straight from the pit of hell. You are not your family's generational curse in Jesus' name. That needs to fall on you today. That needs to fall on you today. You are done with ailment. You are done with disease. Now, being set free from disease is very different than, once again, you're suffering through the disease. Those are two very different things. So Jesus can set you free from a disease because you have a mindset that, you know what, I may never heal from this disease and it may take my life because death is going to happen to all of us. It's just a matter of time. However, I'm going to another realm where there's no pain, there's no tears, there's nothing but peace. I'm back with family that I've already lost, and I'm going to be disease-free for eternity. That's a mindset, and you can overcome that disease in this life if you operate in an otherworldly mindset. You can accept it, but you still go to war against it. You still go to war against your disease. You still fight it head on. You don't roll over to it, but you're training your mind as Christ called us to be trained. You are done with an unhealthy mindset. You are done with a poor body image, and you are done hating yourself and hating people around you. That is evil. That is evil. If you ever feel like you hate somebody, I don't even care what they did. That is something that needs to be brought before the foot of the cross. You are done with not hearing from God, and you are done with not feeling his presence. I have people say this to me all the time. How can you hear God and I can't? Or how come you get dreams and I don't? Or how come you feel his presence and I can't? You can have that today. You can have that today. I can't tell you the way. It's a mystery. I don't know the way. All I know is I'm rooted in the Word. And Christ became flesh. He became the Word became flesh. And I know I have access to him. I've trained my mind that way. I can go and talk to him today, and I can hear from him today. I believe that. So once I believe it, therefore it's a reality. You can have that today. You are done with evil. You are done with schemes. You are done with revenge. You are done with jealousy. You are done with malice. Another really cool thing about being a born-again believer is you can see the enemy's schemes. You can see what he's up to. You're well aware of it. Where other people, they're veiled, as Corinthians talks about. They can't press into what's up. There's all this bad stuff happening in the world, and they can't get out of this pit of hell, and everything's falling apart. And the enemy's just like, got her. But we can see it. We're onto it. And like we arm ourselves. We put on the shield. We put on the vest. We take up the sword. We put on the helmet. We fit our feet every single day, and we say, oh, heck no. This is what's really going on. Do you see it? Do you feel it? We're at war. It's time to wake up. You are done with not seeing miracles, and you are done with not operating in the spiritual realm. You are done with living a boring life. You are done with the mundane. You are done with the routine. You are done with just going to work and having an okay day. You are done with it. You are called for more than that. You are done. You are finished. It is finished in Jesus' name. You can walk away from here and have a miracle happen to you today. Just walking in this door is freedom for some of you. This room is sanctified. It's protected. This whole class is to remind you that you are so much stronger than you even know. And you can tap into that. So when I open this class today, this is just an extreme topic, like, suffering. Nobody wants to suffer, right? Nobody wants to suffer. I avoid it too. I'm guilty of it. I'm not like, just, send something bad my way, God. That's not the point of this. The point of this is saying, you know what, God, if something comes my way, I'm not going to pray that you take it away. I'm going to pray that I can endure it. And you will take it away in your time, in your will, in your way, and maybe you won't. And there's a bigger purpose for that. There's a bigger reason that I'm not understanding, because you are all-knowing. You have an understanding so much more fathomable than I could ever grasp. You are the God of the universe. You are the God of the earth. You are the God of my body. You are the God of my friends and my family. You own it all. You see it all. So when we move today, I want you to think of something. There's probably an area that you're suffering. You're suffering. We're all suffering in some way. That's why we have to band together. And we can't break free of something because we can't do it ourselves. That's why we're here. We can't do it ourselves, God. So instead of praying for God to take it away, I want you to say, God, give me the strength to endure this. Give me the strength to fight this. Give me the strength to put on my armor day after day, no matter how tired or exhausted or defeated or sad or confused or hopeless I am. Every day, I'm not going to waste one day, one moment. I'm going to put on the armor, and I'm going to fight this head on. I'm going to go to war head on. I'm going to throw myself at an army, and I'm going to run full blast right into it. Whatever it is, I don't want you to take it away. I want you to endure it. I want you to go through it. Because there's so much more beauty when you come out the other side. This is what I teach my clients. Do you just want to change your life and lose all the weight overnight? Or do you want to go through the process and see and feel and cry and strive and have joyous moments and happy moments of what it took to get there? That's life. That's living. It sucks. Doesn't make sense. But it's worth it. I'm a testimony to that. I've seen it with my clients. I've been doing this almost 10 years now. I've seen so many stories.